Board of Education meeting. Today is Monday, August 5th. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Ross, will you please call the roll?
Yes. I roll the sheet. I will as soon as I find my sheet that says roll. Don't have one. But to the rest of them, thank you. There it is. I found it. We'll start with Mr. O'Connor.
Here.
Pastor Moody.
Here.
Mr. Matthias. Please.
Here.
Mr. LeGrand Esquire. No. Dr. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Slade.
Here.
Mr. Ross, yes. Dr. Randalls. No. All right. Well, we have, and President Fall, excuse me.
Here.
Well, we do have a quorum, 7-0, 7-2, whatever.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Support? Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Well, it is my pleasure to swear into office our newest member, Reverend John Matthias. So John. Forward here. Would you come around here in front? I'm going to come around beside you. So your back is not to the camera here. What title would you prefer? Reverend Matthias. Fantastic. Okay. Reverend Matthias, please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Michigan. And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education. And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of Board of Education of the Grand Rapids Public Schools in Grand Rapids, Michigan, according to the best of my ability. Thank you. Welcome.
All right.
Well, that felt like a celebration, but we are now on to the celebration portion of our agenda.
Madam President, I would ask that John Himholt come forward to introduce our guest.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. It's an honor to introduce a few special guests who are here to talk a little bit about the resolution that will be in your board agenda today for action around the Week of Peace. And this is something that we've done annually for, I think, several years, as I can recall. And so I'd like to invite Mike Franz, Judy Buckman, Kathy Seingerthaler, Dr. Zalima Moray, Patrick Wilson, and Laura Cassalot of the Interfaith Peace Program for a week. And I'm not sure if everyone's here or not, but those were the names that were provided. So please come on up and join us. Yeah, oh, no, not here. Kathy's come on up. Thank you. Thank you.
Mrs. Weatherall Neal, Dr. Falb, and distinguished members of the board, and new members especially. If you think you were nervous, this is actually my 29th occasion to bring this board resolution for the Week of Peace Education to the Grand Rapids Public Schools. And I guess I'm excited about it and a little nervous myself, but eventually you find your voice, and I see a bunch of smiling faces, and I thank you, especially the superintendent, for your kind help in presenting this program this year, which we think is going to be kind of special. With me tonight, before I explain a little more about the program, I have Judy Bookman on my right. And she's just going to talk very briefly about some of the good work that we have done in the past at Gerald R. Ford Middle School.
Yeah, Gerald R. Ford used to be my neighborhood, right behind Pastor Moody. And one of the things we do is Peace Festival that kind of adds the, when we're studying. And I don't know if many of you remember retired Robbie McClellan. She's a leader in our community. And we just did what we do. We have she had the leadership team, and we would have our meetings. We got a little grant from the link, and they had to take minutes. They had to have attendance. And then these were the leaders that found the people who had tables at the Peace Festival, and they're the ones that greeted the kids. It was just such a wonderful thing for middle school, and really would like to encourage more of this real activities that are learning, but at the same time taking leadership. That's one model, and it was a lot of fun, and it was really fun being in the school when you live in the neighborhood and be a part of it.
Thank you, Judy. And to my left, Kathy Segenthaler is going to talk about Southwest Community Campus.
And when I moved to Grand Rapids, I think there's two things. One is that we moved here partly because of Academia de Español and Grand Rapids Public Schools and became involved as parents there. But then the other thing was Institute for Global Ed. So these two things happened, maybe it was 15 years ago. So every year I've been involved in some way in promoting this kind of thing in the schools. And at Southwest, we have incorporated the Peace Festival idea into, and I think a lot of the schools can, you can use these things to add to events that are already going on in the schools. We have a pledge, which is bilingual in Spanish and English, which everybody signs at the event. This year we did it around our multicultural festival. And then we also try to do as much as we can around incorporating the youth to organize the event, be part of the organizing of it, and to just bring out those values that we all have to work for to create a more peaceful community. So Southwest did that in our May event. We try to do that each time, and I think maybe some people got to see the pledge signed, because we always try to put that up and so everybody can see it through the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. It's been my pleasure to work with these programs and these wonderful people. In addition to that, another committee, we don't have time to mention everybody, but to see these children, elementary school, middle school, sometimes high school, get enthusiastic about peace and conflict resolution and the enthusiasm that they bring to it is amazing. When they sign that Pledge of Nonviolence, at the end of the day, they're very happy to do it, and it means a lot to them. The resolution that the Institute for Global Education is presenting again to the board is pretty much the same as the one we presented in 1984 with a couple of changes. And by the way, that's 29 years. You said a few, yeah, well, several. 29 is several. I congratulate the Grand Rapids Public Schools on being the only board in the United States who's had 29 consecutive years of a week of peace education. You should be proud. The Peace Education Week begins with, and since it's not printed in our agenda tonight, but you have it, you also have a copy of the Week of Peace Education program guide that we prepared for use in the schools for older and younger youth, age-appropriate activities. It begins, a world without war is in the best interest of all humanity, and I think we could all agree to that right away. And then something happened in the new millennium. The United Nations declared September 21st, 2011, or 2013 as the International Day of Peace. And they've been doing this now for about 20 years. And so we've built our new program around the UN International Day of Peace, which is always celebrated on the 21st of September. Now, this year it happens to come on a Saturday, so our week of peace education is going to be the week prior to, September 16th through 20th. And then we're asking that the children try to remember on that Saturday at noon all of the children in the world who have suffered from war. And they are usually the worst sufferers, if you know anything about the subject, and I'm sure you do. In addition to our concern about international peace and through the UN, we're also concerned about peace in our communities. And our two other whereases here I'd like to bring to your attention. Whereas there is a growing awareness of the need to learn the skills of conflict resolution in order to diffuse the growth of violence in our communities. And I think you would agree with me that is a very worthy goal. And whereas with the advent of the new millennium, there is a growing desire to change our communities and schools from a culture of violence to a culture of peace. And I could go on with the resolution. I hope you get a chance to read it. We hope that the schools get a chance to share it with their staffs and the program that we prepared. And along with that, on the 21st, we have the mayor, Mayor Hartwell, has consented in the third consecutive year to bring a resolution to the city of Grand Rapids, and we're going to have a press conference. And hopefully we'll be able to share this resolution that the board has created along with his resolution and bring things more or less to a close. There is an interfaith community peace service on Sunday following where the sisters have prepared a program that's listed in your, in the program guide there. And we'll have speakers from various religions that are going to talk about how they teach peace in this year with a special emphasis on the environment. Anyway, it's a rather complete program. It begins Saturday. Judy has planned carefully for the East Town celebration where we always have the peace presence and we celebrate our program there in public. And then we go to the week of peace education and the mayor's declaration and finally our interfaith peace service on Sunday. And we thank you so much for your faithfulness and dedication and the extra care that you have given this program over the years. And I know the superintendent is intentionally giving us just a little extra push for us this year. We're so grateful. Any questions?
Well, I just want to add one thing. The Peace Festival is around 7 principles: respect self and others, nature, play creatively. And if you come to the Peace Festival, it's made of different organizations that have something at one of those tables. And we'd like to see that as a model in the school rather than carnivals. We have something like this that as a whole community is looking at how do we play creatively together and those kind of things. So we're hoping that some of the teachers can come and the principals and see what it's like, and yourselves. Thank you all very much.
That's at East Town on the Saturday prior to. That would be on, it's in our program here. Yeah, September 14th. It's in the box. But thank you so much. And
Thank you.
We'll be here later if you have any questions. We'll be happy to talk with you.
Thank you very much.
Summertime, we do not have our student representatives, so we are at public comment for board agenda items. Mr. Ross? We have none. So we are at reports. Mr. Ross, Secretary's report.
We do have on Wednesday, back to school celebration. It's occurring at John Ball Zoo. And again, we'll be highlighting registration, school choices, programs and services. And again, that's Wednesday at John Ball Zoo, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. It is a free event. There'll be entertainment, food, and giveaways. In case of rain, we'll do it the next day on the 8th. So that's this Wednesday, 3 to 7 at John Ball Zoo. Rain date is August 8th, Thursday. That's all I have.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
I would ask that John Himholt and Rusty, hi Rusty, come on up for a legislative report.
Madam Superintendent, Dr. Fall, members of the board, we're here to give just a quick legislative update. The legislature has been pretty quiet, all things considered, this summer. There are a number of issues that we've been tracking, as well as some hearings. I think one of the first is the Common Core standards. There's been an awful lot of churn happening on this, on an issue that seemed to be a no-brainer. But there was a group in the legislature that rallied to essentially defund or to prevent the Michigan Department of Education from spending resources on the implementation of Common Core. This has since evolved into a very unique coalition of advocates for Common Core, a very broad spectrum of special interests that you would rarely, if ever, see on the same letterhead together, advocating in support of restoring the funding. We're certainly part of that, working with the members. There's a total of 4 hearings that were scheduled, 2 of which are upcoming, one of which is on August 14th. We have been working with Brian Cloyd from Steelcase, a friend of ours who will be there to testify. I believe he's speaking on behalf of the business leaders of Michigan. We have a pre-meeting the day before with Brian, Bobby Joe Kenyon, former Michigan Teacher of the Year, and the West Michigan delegation at the ISD. Chris Glass, who's the new executive director of the West Michigan Talent Triangle, a coalition of the Muskegon, Ottawa, and Kent ISDs, are helping to pull that together so we can communicate first with our West Michigan lawmakers, and then on the 28th, I believe it is, of August, Bobby Joe is going to go down and testify in Lansing. So we will certainly have a presence in this debate, and we've already been communicating with our lawmakers on this issue. The second issue that I'll touch base on, the consolidation of services. There's a lot in the news recently. Superintendent Mike Flanagan has proposed or has floated a concept that would consolidate predominantly operational, non-academic, non-instructional services under the umbrella of the ISDs. Now, there are some caveats because he did indicate, let me borrow this, Rusty, that it would be looking at consolidating those operations when it's more efficient and it saves taxpayer dollars, or if a local district can provide the similar services that district may be the one tap. So it's not necessarily limited to just ISDs. Of course, Grand Rapids Public, we have in many ways been the model for shared services. We provide food service to East Grand Rapids Public Schools, Catholic and Christian schools, 5 different charter schools. We can, and a new charter just with Covenant House. We're providing public safety services and training for public and private schools. And the list can go on further. We have an economy of scale that we bring because of our size, and that would be something that would be factored in. There are a lot of concerns. There is no legislation. The devil will certainly be in the details. This is something we will be tracking very closely. You want to?
Yeah, I just add a couple of things if I can. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. Just to add into what John said, this is really sort of I think this is more of a vision statement from the superintendent. Lots of flesh needs to be put on the bones. The legislature, I don't see this as one of their top priorities in terms of considering his vision. At this point, they've got other things that I think they're going to be working on. But this is more of a long term that we'll want to make sure that we're involved as we see more details and as the discussions continue forward. On Common Core, I just want to point out it's an interesting debate because as equally broad as the coalition is that supports it, there's an equally broad coalition that is opposing. And so you have, it's interesting, there are some in the Democratic caucus who are concerned that too many private businesses are making too much profit setting up the Common Core and all of the things in marketing that goes along with it. And then there are those on the Republican circles who fear that this is some sort of national program that's being shoved down the throats of local districts. And so equally on both sides of the debate, you have sort of a broad coalition. I do know that our firm met with a number of the West Michigan delegation. Elizabeth Likens, I think, joined us in a couple of those. I think there's a majority support in the West Michigan delegation to restore that funding. And so, my prediction at this point is that it would be restored when the hearings are done and when they come back in session. My prediction is only it's a snapshot of the picture in time right now, subject to change without notice. But thus is the legislature. But my sense is they want to get to a point where both leadership in both chambers, in both parties, would like to see the Common Core adopted. So it'll be an interesting walkthrough. But I think ultimately they'll get there. EAA has been something that we've looked at for the last couple of years. It's sort of gone through fits and starts. I think it's in a fit right now. It's in the Senate. There does not seem to be a push from Senate leadership to get something done. There was a significant amount of compromise and alteration of the EAA to get it through the House. And I think there's some concern that the Senate may want to undo some of those things, and then you can't get the votes to concur it if you go back to the House. So I think there's some negotiations that will continue to go on. But it doesn't seem to be at the head of sort of the list right now from the administration or from the Senate. Now that may change. We are in a summer recess. Medicaid expansion has sort of taken up all the oxygen in the room when they are in the Capitol. So, but at this point, I don't see a real strong push for the EAA. The two things that I did want to mention as well that we're going to want to keep an eye on is one, this whole notion, I don't think the need for more transportation funding is going away. I think there's going to continue to be more discussions on that. And so we just want to keep an eye on what they're doing there and how they might be trying to tie things together on the transportation side. And the last thing, and I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. The legislature's out of session, so I'm out of practice. But the last thing that I just want to talk about is that the department did come out with some teacher evaluation recommendations on how teacher evaluations would be done. And I know, at least in the House, the Education Committee is looking at holding some hearings on that and having further discussions on that. So we'll want to make sure that we're involved in doing that. And we'll just to make sure that we're involved in that process because I think we can bring unique perspective to that debate. Hopefully to come up with something that all sides can agree is a good way to move forward. I know that's a simple explanation on a very complicated subject, but I do think there's going to be more discussions. So I'm happy to answer any questions, John, unless you had anything else.
That was it.
Questions for Mr. Merchant? I guess I have a question. How does the process work for the teacher evaluation? I mean, do they accept testimony or is there, I mean, how does?
Yeah, my sense would be, and again, I don't know this firsthand, but my sense would be in talking with the chairperson that they would want to have some hearings to talk about, all right, what was proposed, get input, what do people think, and then my sense is it would move through a legislative process with legislation. But I can't say for sure that's how it's going to happen, but my sense is they would want to get some input based on that. As you all know, there was some discussion about performance, or pay based on performance. There was a amendment that talked about none of that could move forward until there was an evaluation system in place. How do you evaluate based for performance unless you have an evaluation tool? So there's going to be a lot of discussion around that. If I had to guess at the thing that's probably going to be the biggest in the fall in terms of education, it would probably be that issue. That would be the most talked about.
So you think it's likely that we'll have something in the fall, or no?
I'm not prepared to even say whether that's the case or not. I mean, this is something that, a lot of folks are going to have a lot of opinions on.
And they just released the report that Michigan Council on Educator Effectiveness that Dr. Ball from U of M chaired that's fresh off the press. So that's, I'm sure, going to feed into it as well.
Yep.
Can I ask a question? Is that online, John? I would be real interested in that.
It is,
report.
and we can circulate it too as well.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
No further questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, we have a number of action items on tonight's agenda. The first is for approval of the purchasing agenda. Do I have a motion for that approval?
Motion to approve the purchasing agenda.
Support for that?
Support.
Any questions? I actually had one question, and that was regarding the printing of our student handbook. And I was just curious as to whether we have online options for that printing, or do we account for duplicates with siblings, or how does that process go?
We don't have an online option at this time, and we give one to every child instead of families, because we have so much information in there. It's not just the rules and regs, but parents actually sign. And so it really is our way to protect the system and sharing information for.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the purchasing agenda?
Yeah, I guess on that same deal, that definitely did get my attention as well. And I guess I would just like us to maybe look at some options. I know that we obviously have to legally advise each family, of certain information, but I guess I know, and maybe almost embarrassed to say, but I know the ones that's sitting home with me, I've never opened it. So, and I'm sure I'm probably.
That's not good, Mr. Ross. Pretty important information.
But I'm sure there are probably, thousands of other families, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't open it, but from a cost standpoint, I don't know if we could look at maybe even at the registration. I don't know if if they could check whether they want it available online, or if they want a hard copy. I don't know. It just seems like there could be some thousands of dollars saved, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that uses it for a coaster. Embarrassed to say again, but just being honest.
Well, I would not want parents to do that. It is very
No, it
important
shouldn't be.
information, and so I would seek legal opinion, get legal opinion on that, because we are obligated to share that
Yeah.
information, and that is really a legal document. And so for parents out there, I am asking you to read it so that you understand what the expectations are.
Including parents who happen to be board members?
Absolutely, especially board members. I'm sure Sherry read it.
Is it available online?
No, it is not at this time. We require a signature, and actually that book is,
I'm wondering if just in addition to the printed copies with a signature, whether for reference sake, it might be helpful.
We could do
To be
that.
able to search it, or, whatever it might be.
that's easy enough to do, I'm sure.
Thank
And
you.
if I can just comment, I think, even as a parent, I would print even the piece that I would have to sign in order to bring it in, if that's what I needed to do in order to show the school, because I'm assuming that the school is gonna make sure that the parent gets that, correct? Or is that a mailing that's gonna go out?
It is not a mailing, no. We actually pass them out.
Or what, isn't it?
Orientation.
Yeah,
Orientation.
okay. And again, for savvy parents who do have internet options, that's something that's gonna save the school money if they don't have to provide that hard
It's
copy.
easy enough to do.
So,
If I may, I think you have a good point, though, because not all the parents have access to everything online.
Right.
I know that's hard for young people to believe.
That's right.
There's a number of people who don't spend a lot of time online. So it's helpful
Yeah.
that they also get hard copies.
Right. Thank you. Call the vote?
Mr. O'Connor,
yes.
Pastor Moody,
Yes.
Pastor Matias,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Ross, yes, Dr. Randall,
Yes.
President Fall.
Yes.
Purchasing agenda passed 8-0.
Next action item is approval of the donations as listed. Do I have a motion to approve those donations?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Any questions? Discussion?
Always like donations.
Yeah, right. All good.
They're all good.
Mr. Ross? can you-
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Pastor Moody,
Yes.
Pastor Matias,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Ross, yes. Dr. Randall?
Yes.
President Fall?
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Dr. Falb, I'd like to ask if I can invite, I'm going to call him out now, Gideon and Johnny Brand Jr. If
Yeah,
If
fantastic.
they can come down, and I was going to do it at the end, but just to give them an opportunity, because that's one of the
Right.
donations to share.
I was actually querying
Johnny.
about it before the meeting
right.
and got a sneak preview of, it's pretty exciting.
Thank you. So, Gideon, if you can share a little bit about what we're doing at Innovation Central, and then Mr. Brand.
Sure.
You're
Good
too young
evening.
to say Mr. Brand, but Mr.
Thank you
Brand.
very much for thank you very much for inviting us to come and address this. We're actually very excited about this. When I first got to the district, John Helmholt and Ron Gorman told me that Johnny Brand had been interested in getting involved with GRPS, and I immediately jumped on that and had discussions with him in the initial stages to find out what he has done and what he thinks would be possible to do in the schools. And some of the ideas he came up with were extremely creative, especially based on his knowledge of the restaurant business and the technology he's invested in his company. One of the things that I kind of have started to hang a hat on is the fact that I found out that Central's the oldest school in the state. So the way we're going to look at it is that it's the oldest school doing education in the newest way. So I'll turn it over to Johnny, and he came up with most of the ideas. So.
Yeah, thanks for the honor of being here, and it's been Gideon did, I think, within like 48 hours of being in town, I think we had met, and so I was lucky enough to meet and start to work through the process with Gideon and John and Ron and other great staff members, and so I embarked on a project about it'll be a year at the end of the month is when it completed, but about 2 years ago in total for a new restaurant I put together, Kitchen 67 on the East Beltline. And in doing that, it just turned into, it was a snowball rolling down a big hill after I had started the process with Apple in their office in Cupertino to put technology into my restaurant and to create a new way of experiencing going out to dinner. So then through that process and having thoughts along the way, I thought that it would be interesting to use some of these resources to create not just a new way of going out to dinner, but a new way of education. And of course, I don't have all the expertise to do that, but with your great group and Gideon, there's been the opportunity to do that. So I worked with other local and global companies, from Apple to Verizon Wireless to Amway and Gentex and Custer Technology, Steelcase, and just put together some really unique ideas. And primarily a company named Visidef, which is a local gentleman in town. His name is Marcel Tibert, and he's very, very innovative and talented at what he does. And so those are some of the resources that we're using right now, and we're just getting started. So it's exciting.
And to explain some of the things that we're looking to do now that it's been approved, some of the things that we're going to do is make the environment as engaging as possible for everybody in the community that enters the building. As soon as you walk in the building, there will be a 3-foot by 8-foot hovering screen that will have rear projection that will broadcast videos, broadcast to the website, broadcast GRPS advertisements, broadcast GRPS news, whatever we feel is necessary to engage those coming through the door. This is all part of stage one of what we've kind of dubbed the brand plan of technology. We're also going to work on the cafeteria and make that an engaging environment as well, where we will do similar smaller screens, which would kind of come to about an 80-inch screen with rear projection, where we'll be able to broadcast news channels, sports, whatever we feel is appropriate. But also one of them, we're working with Paul Baumgartner to make sure that we show some of the videos he has for food nutrition services. We'll also be running a Twitter feed so that the students can engage each other across the COIs, not just within their COIs. Of course, this will all be regulated via Mark and myself and the others.
You saw that, and Dennis go, whoa.
Question 6 on Mr. Young's exam will not be broadcast. But in an effort to really, as we start to roll people through who come and speak at some of our Friday experiences or come and speak to classes, they'll be able to tweet about that. We need to meet the students where they are, and they're engaged with technology, and we need to help them utilize that in a productive manner within the education setting. So we're really happy that the board has approved this, that Johnny's helped us with this, that others have jumped in and helped finance it, and we're really excited about getting started on the work.
Thank you.
What was the name of the firm you worked, let's say that with Marcel Tibert, what was his name of his?
It's Vizidef, Vizidef.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Next action item is the layoff resolution. Do I have a motion to approve this layoff resolution? Support?
Board.
Any discussion? Mr. Ross?
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Pastor Moody.
Yes.
Pastor Matthias.
Yes.
Dr. Baker.
Yes, did you want to discuss it? You were pausing there, so.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Ms. Slade. Mr. Ross, yes. Dr. Randalls.
Yes.
President Faulk.
Yes.
Layoff resolution passes 8-0.
Next on the agenda is the lease for Brookside School. Do I have a motion to approve this lease?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Discussion?
Madam President, if I would mind if Mr. Comparens could maybe give us a little bit of update on the lease policy. I know he's put a significant amount of work into updating our leasing policy and our leasing procedures and updating our leases, so I just think it'd be helpful for y'all to hear about that.
The lease in front of you, there's 2 of them, and they're very similar. We have worked with Mr. O'Connor and Mrs. Davis and I together for the past few months trying to come up with some standardization for leases and lease rates to make sure that our costs are being covered, not only our operating costs, but some of our capital reinvestment costs. So we have established a base rate that we're starting to incorporate into leases as they're renewed. And these leases before you are for churches using our facilities. Currently, we have 7 churches using facilities, 4 are under lease, and 3 are under building use. These are 2 of the building use operations that are being converted to lease. Protects both sides, it defines the use much better, and it still gives us on either side a 90-day out to cancel for either party. It establishes fair base rates across the board, so they're all being treated equally, and it's very clear on what space they have, and it defines what they can and cannot do in the building. So the 2 before you are for, at Brookside, it's New Fellowship Baptist Church, and at Sigsbee, it's Eastern Avenue Church.
Any questions for Mr. Comparens? Thank you, and Ms. Davis and Mr. O'Connor for doing this work in the midst of a very busy time. No further questions, we'll call the vote.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Pastor Moody.
Yes.
Pastor Matthias.
Yes.
Dr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Slade.
Yes.
Mr. Ross, yes. Dr. Randalls.
Yes.
President Faulk.
Yes.
Brookside lease resolution passes 8-0.
Do I have a motion to approve the Sigsbee School lease?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Support.
Discussion? Mr. Ross?
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Pastor Moody.
Yes.
Pastor Matthias.
Yes.
Dr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Slade.
Yes.
Mr. Ross, yes. Dr. Randalls.
Yes.
President Faulk.
Yes.
6 Bixby School lease passes 8-0.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Mr. Ross?
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Pastor Moody,
Yes.
Pastor Matthias,
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Ross, yes, Dr. Randalls,
Yes.
and President Faub.
Yes.
Consent agenda passes 8-0.
Thank you. We have no discussion items, public comment, and I want to encourage if there is public comment for agenda items as well as non-agenda items, even though Mr. LeGrand is not here to hear me say that. You are welcome to make comment on that. Right now, we have one card.
For Mr. Paul Helder.
Mr. Helder.
Good evening.
Evening.
As President Faub noted, Mr. LeGrand is not here tonight, which is unfortunate because I called earlier today and left him a message on his cell phone to take him up on his offer for additional time. So obviously that's not going to happen, but that's okay. I think I can keep it very general and therefore brief. Essentially, what I'd like to do, though, is make sure that we schedule some time, so you're going to get a call from me, because I want to bring everybody up to speed on what we perceive as the numerous problems surrounding the lack of transparency, consistency, and objectivity that appear to be pervasive in the district's new evaluation, transfer and vacancy, and layoff processes. We're very concerned about these processes. Particularly now that they've been removed from our contractual bargaining. In any case, without going too far down that road with the time remaining here, I do want to let you guys know, also the general public know, that I had a meeting this morning with Sharon Pitts, Mickey Savage, and John Helmholt to discuss these issues. We went into some detail around some of these ideas and what some of the problems are and perhaps even how some of them can be shored up. I felt that that meeting was very productive. I did not get the sense, as I have perhaps in the past a couple of years ago, that no one was listening. I got the sense that the concerns were heard, that some of them were acknowledged, and I wanted to let you know that there's already going to be some work done, and we've been invited to the table on that, which is new for these processes, to look at ways to fix up some of these things. Obviously, I doubt we're going to get to where I'd like to be, but I'm used to that. The reality is, where I'd like to be is perhaps not where you want to be, and you're the board. I'm not. But I do know that none of us want a process that appears arbitrary or seems unfair or violates, the idea that an evaluation should mean something. So with that in mind, I do want to call your attention specifically to just a couple of things. Certainly, the layoff list, as you know, was quite extensive, far bigger than was planned. During our conversation today, I found out that essentially HR only just barely compiled that before the meeting, which is probably the account for the short notice that I had. I am still a little confused as to how, 30 became 160 positions. I still really haven't heard a solid explanation for how that explosion took place. But some of the problems that we found in there, including highly effective teachers being put on the list, including counseling staff that by law should not have been put on that list because it's not the right process that was utilized. Those things have actually been fixed already in most cases, so that's very positive. The fact is, though, they shouldn't have happened, and we could help. I mean, another set of eyes is always positive, And if people would get their documentation into HR so HR can get their work done when they need to get it done, we could then take a look at these things and fix them. We've got to find a better way to work together than what we're doing right now. Because I feel like we're sliding back to the way things were under the former superintendent in some of these areas. And I know that that's not right. And I know that's not what any of us want. You know, but that's the pull that I'm getting from some of my members who feel very upset, betrayed. I feel in the dark about some things. I don't like that. It doesn't have to be that way. And I don't think it will. I really don't. I think we're gonna find a way to come together and work together. So while I do wanna schedule these meetings and let you know the specific problems, I want you to know I'm coming with solutions and that, you know, I'm already working with HR and we're already talking and trying to figure out ways where the policies can be followed, but the process can be more transparent, more objective. The administration can actually follow it instead of just this principal follows it and this one doesn't and this one makes up their own rules and whatever. So I'm over my 3 minutes.
Yes.
That's the look you're giving me. I know it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Held.
We do have one more, Aaron Nordholt.
Before I get started, I just want to say Kitchen 67. I've spent many dinners there. I recommend everybody stop by. Dangerous me working on the belt line, I'm telling you. But no, thank you.
So, Mr. Norhick, you have 3 minutes. Would you like a 1 minute warning?
If you would be so kind, please.
Great, okay.
Thank you so much. I've spent the past school year as the only social studies and English teacher at KUC Beltline High School, a position that sat vacant for nearly 2 years prior to my appointment. In April, there was discussion of KUC being absorbed by another district within the county, and it was suggested that KUC staff begin seeking outside employment. By the end of May, my principal had confirmed that KUC would indeed remain a part of GRPS, and that staff would be returning in the fall. Having been in the middle of an interview process for another district, my principal questioned why I was continuing the process and asked me, "Are you really going to make me search to fill your position again?" Took over 1.5 years last time. With his assurance that I would be returning to KC Beltline in the fall, I removed myself from consideration for outside positions and stopped applying for other districts. My real confusion lies in why I was laid off from my position, only to be replaced by another teacher. I have spent the past year getting to know my students at KC Beltline, students with severe emotional impairments. I have built strong relationships with both students and staff. In May, I was informed of the classes I would be teaching this coming fall and spent the spring and summer planning for them. My IDP goals are specific to my students and their needs. I have built solid working relationships with the special educators at KUC Beltline, special educators who I taught with on a daily basis. Together, we worked to recognize the personal, academic, and social emotional needs of our students and developed individualized plans to help them achieve. I was ready to hit the ground running in the fall with my KUC kids, ready to help them grow and ready to help them get that much closer to graduation. It is difficult for me to believe that I am in the bottom 106 teachers in this district. It is even harder for me to believe that there's someone in this district in a better position to help the students of KUC Beltline achieve in English and social studies. I have spent the past year diagnosing students' needs, responding to their academic struggles, and assisting them in achieving their personal goals. Their growth was my focus. Their growth is my concern with someone else in my position at KEC. I think my evaluation speaks for itself. To be effective in a self-contained classroom takes hard work and dedication. I refuse to believe that I have spent the past school year putting in countless hours after school, spending my own money buying books for students in a library-less building, and working with my colleagues to build a strong sense of community, only to be cast aside by the district nearly a month before the start of the school year. I guess I am simply looking for an explanation. I am not trying to understand why. Why was I repeatedly told by my principal that I would have my position in the fall? Why was I not told until the third week of July that I no longer would have my position or any position in GRPS? Why was I not given notice of my displacement being an agenda item on the July 16th Board of Education meeting? Why was my name not included on the public agenda prior to the meeting? Why does the district consider me to be in the lowest 106 teachers in the district, despite a rating of effective by my administrator, multiple sets of data showing student growth, and a high rating by students themselves in the tripod survey? Why was I not able to interview for my position at KEC Beltline? Shouldn't the position go to the individual who could best help students achieve? Why are my students going to return in the fall expecting Mr. N as their history and English teacher, only to find a teacher they have never met and who has no intimate understanding of their academic needs? Why is a program like KC Beltline with a unique structure and many of the most at-risk students in the district not given special consideration when it comes to staffing? I would appreciate a response to these questions as I struggle to understand my displacement and its effects on my students.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Further public comment?
No, ma'am.
All right. Superintendent's comments.
No comments.
Board members, Pastor Moody.
None.
Dr. Baker?
Yes, I just want to welcome Reverend Matias aboard. It's really great to have you on here, and I know a lot of people in the community are very hopeful that you're here, and so I think it's fabulous that you're part of this. So thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Ross?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Slade?
No, I'd add my congratulations and welcome. We're all pleased that you're here.
Mr. O'Connor?
Just a reminder to all our friends in the third ward that there's an election tomorrow, so get out and vote.
Dr. Randalls?
No comment.
Reverend Matias?
Well, it's a real honor to be considered now a board member. It does hurt to hear, some of the comments of our teachers, and so hopefully we will continue to work on, on the process and the communication that really needs to happen, especially for folks. Certainly they call it a career, but it's also a life that they want to live in service. So my hope is that we definitely begin to wrestle with what it means to be a district that works for not only the students, and I'm reading here, are we doing what is right for students, but we also want to do right for what our staff do. So we want to make sure we do that. But it's a great honor to be able to serve this community. So.
Well, I want to welcome you too, once again, Reverend Matias. I think you are going to make a substantive contribution and challenge us all. So we are a better board for your addition. I also, just a couple of things. I wanted to, in our consent agenda, we approved the Sustainability Committee, and I know there was a little bit of a write-up in MLive, and I just wanted to thank you for your leadership, understanding how connected that is to academics and social justice, and also yours, Dr. Randalls, and the policy you're working on. And I also, last week, we approved a lot of retirements, and we did this week as well, and I just noted how much service was reflected in all of those retirements. And there was one teacher in particular that had Mr. Ross and Dr. Baker and my children as a young for 3 years, and she, Ms. Jill Ainsley, and she's the reason I'm on this board today, and I just wanted to honor her. She retired. So that's all I have. Meeting adjourned.
Bernard, what time was the celebration on Wednesday?
7.
No, I
Did you just make
Sir?
I don't